Okay, you know that feeling, right? Where your calendar just feels like, I don't know, a battlefield.
Totally. And your inbox never ends.
Exactly. It's like you're being pulled in 50 directions at once. Every email, every request feels like an emergency, a must-do.
Like you have to say yes or you'll miss out on something huge. That constant on feeling.
Yeah, you're always on. But hang on, if we're being really honest, under all that running around, are you actually thriving? Or are you just, well, on the fast track to burnout?
That's the big question, isn't it? Is all this constant activity actually success? Or is it just draining us completely?
It feels so common today, that pressure. Pile it on, be available 24/7, don't ever drop the ball.
Yeah, it really is. And that feeling, that kind of constant pressure cooker state, that's exactly what we're digging into today.
Right.
We've gone through a lot of material covering, health, psychology, and some really practical hands-on strategies to get a handle on this stress of overcommitment.
So what's the goal here? What are we trying to pull out?
The mission, really, is to understand what this nonstop pace actually does to us, our bodies, our minds, and maybe more importantly, figure out how we can genuinely protect our time, our energy, and, our peace.
Okay, let's start at the beginning then. Stress. What's actually happening in our bodies when we're under all that pressure?
Well, basically, stress is your body's alarm system. It's biological. When your brain senses a demand, could be that overflowing inbox or, a tight deadline, it triggers hormones, things like cortisol and adrenaline.
Ah, the famous fight or flight response.
Exactly. It's ancient wiring designed to give you this burst of energy. Your heart rate goes up, breathing quickens, muscles get ready for action.
Which is great for like a short sprint, hitting that deadline maybe, that short-term acute stress. That's normal, right?
Yeah.
Temporary.
Totally normal.
Yeah.
The problem, and this came through really clearly in our deep dive, isn't that quick burst. It's when the alarm system gets stuck in the on position. When that feeling of being on high alert becomes chronic, prolonged, overwhelming, it just goes on and on. Your body basically stays in emergency mode, day in, day out.
And the stuff we looked at showed just how many things can keep that alarm ringing. It's not just about having a demanding job.
Oh, not at all. High pressure work, that's a big one. Financial worries, definitely huge, but there's so much more. Difficult relationships, big life changes, even stuff from your past.
Like what kind of past experiences?
Well, things called adverse childhood experiences, or ACEs. This could be growing up with parental mental illness or substance abuse in the home, experiencing neglect or abuse, even things like parents divorcing or a parent being incarcerated. These early experiences can actually shape your stress response system for life.
Wow, that's powerful, connecting it back to childhood like that. And then in adulthood, it just layers on injury, losing a job.
Feeling overwhelmed by what's happening in the world, National events, global problems. The sources we looked at showed that the world itself can feel like a constant source of stress these days.
And it doesn't hit everyone the same way, does it?
No, definitely not. We saw some data, like from the APA, showing money's a top stressor for loads of people, but there are disparities. For instance, Black and Hispanic folks were much more likely to report stress over food insecurity compared to white individuals. And big public events, remember the Capitol breach a few years back? That was cited as a significant stressor for many different groups. It just shows how these big external things pile on to our personal pressures.
So it's this really complex mix of causes, hitting people differently, and the effects. They sound just as widespread.
They really are. Chronic stress isn't picky. It impacts your whole system. The list of symptoms is huge. Physically, you might feel just drained all the time, constant fatigue, headaches, maybe stomach issues.
Yeah, I think people recognize those.
Or changes in appetite, feeling jumpy, trouble sleeping, catching every cold that goes around. Mentally, it can look like irritability, snapping easily, difficulty concentrating, thoughts racing, feeling kind of helpless or like you've lost control, even low self-esteem, or losing interest in sex.
That's a lot. It really gets into every corner of your life and the long-term health impact. It's not just about feeling bad, is it?
Absolutely not. This is where it gets really serious. The research is clear. Chronic stress isn't just unpleasant, it changes your biology. It can weaken connections in your brain, especially the prefrontal cortex, the part you need for good decisions and controlling impulses. They've seen this in brain scans.
Wow.
And over time, it tanks your immune system, which, opens the door to all sorts of major health issues. We're talking increased risk of heart disease, high blood pressure, type 2 diabetes, obesity, chronic fatigue syndrome, sexual problems, gut disorders, autoimmune diseases flaring up. And it's a massive contributor to depression and anxiety.
So it's way beyond just feeling a bit stressed. It's actually making us sick. And this is different from that quick, acute stress response, or even something like acute stress disorder after a trauma.
Exactly. Different time scale, different impact. Recognizing that difference is really key. And while you have professional help like therapy, maybe cognitive behavioral therapy, or sometimes medication is often really important for deep chronic stress, building in your own self-management tools is absolutely vital. You have to play an active role.
Okay, that really paints a picture of the problem. Now let's talk about the trap. How do we get into this state?
Yeah.
You mentioned this idea of the overcommitment illusion.
Yeah, this is fascinating. It's this sort of baked-in belief, this illusion that being constantly overscheduled, juggling a million things, somehow means you're more productive or successful or just important.
And where does that come from? Why do we buy into it?
Well, often it seems to be driven by fear. Fear of messing up, maybe, or fear of not being good enough, that classic imposter syndrome feeling, or even just the fear of looking lazy or unimportant.
Yeah.
In our culture, sometimes being busy is like a badge of honor, isn't it? So you say yes to everything to kind of prove yourself.
You feel like you have to keep all those plates spinning to show everyone you've got it together.
Exactly. But the reality is that the material really emphasizes is that you're not actually multitasking effectively. Your brain doesn't really work that way. It's just rapid switching. You're bouncing between things so fast.
That nothing gets your full attention.
Precisely. Less focus, less cognitive energy, less real effort goes into any one thing.
And the costs of buying into this illusion, right, the research said they're often hidden, right? Until it's too late.
Yeah, they creep up on you. You end up sacrificing quality. You might put off the really important, meaningful work. There was an example about delaying a potentially impactful research project because you're swamped with minor urgent requests.
Leads straight to burnout, I imagine.
Directly. And it strains your relationships because even if you're physically there, your mind is somewhere else. You lose time for rest, for reflection, which are actually crucial for good work. And you get hooked on looking busy for others instead of focusing on what actually makes a difference or, your own well-being.
This brings up such a simple but really powerful point that the deep dive hammered home. Every time you say yes to something,
You're saying no to something else.
Yeah.
Automatically.
And that's something else you're saying no to.
So-
Often it's the important stuff, right? Your own goals, your health.
Exactly. Saying yes to that extra meeting might mean saying no to focused work on your passion project. Saying yes to checking emails late at night means saying no to being truly present with your family, or just getting the sleep your body needs.
So the hidden costs of saying yes too much are pretty steep.
Yeah. Less focus on your priorities, less personal well-being, less mental clarity, less energy. You end up feeling constantly busy, but like you're not making real progress on what actually matters to you. It's frustrating.
Which leads us perfectly into the solution, or at least a major part of it, the flip side, boundaries. And learning to say no. The research positions boundaries as like the foundation for a calmer life.
Absolutely. It sounds basic, but it's about intentionally drawing lines, protecting your time, your energy, your emotional reserves.
So creating boundaries is about defining what works for you and what doesn't.
That's it, exactly. It's about carving out your space,
Yeah.
defining what's okay and what's not okay in terms of how others interact with you and your time. It gives you back that sense of control that the overcommitment illusion just eats away.
Where do people typically need boundaries the most? What are the common areas?
Oh, work is a massive one. Emails pinging at all hours, weekend requests becoming normal, demanding people in your personal life, friends, family who maybe don't respect your limits. And a huge one today, technology.
Oh, yeah, the phone.
Constant notifications, the endless social media scroll. It's literally designed to hook you, and it can really fuel feelings of comparison, anxiety, even despair, which just drains your peace.
And hand in hand with boundaries is just saying no. Simple, but powerful.
Incredibly powerful. The material frames it not just as a refusal, but as a strategy, an act of self-respect even. It's how you align what you do with what you value. But let's be honest.
It's really hard for a lot of people, myself included sometimes. Why is it so tough?
Well, the research points to all these unhelpful beliefs we carry, like thinking saying no is automatically rude or unkind or selfish.
Yeah, or worrying people won't like you if you're not always agreeable.
Exactly. Or feeling like you should put everyone else's needs first, that you should be able to please everybody, or that refusing something small makes you seem petty. Lots of shoulds.
I think everyone listening can probably relate to at least one of those. So how do we fight back? What are the more helpful beliefs we should adopt?
Shifting that internal narrative is key. You need to internalize that, Okay, yes, others have the right to ask, but you have the absolute right to refuse. And saying no to a request isn't rejecting the person.
That's a really important distinction.
And reminding yourself of that core truth. Saying yes to this means saying no to that. You're always choosing where your energy goes. Also, realizing most people are actually okay with hearing no. They can handle it. Often they respect the honesty more than a resentful yes.
Honesty delivered kindly is better than resentment building up. Makes sense.
Definitely.
Okay, so mindset change is step one. But in the moment, how do you actually say it? How do you deliver the no assertively, but without being harsh?
The practical tips are pretty straightforward, but they take practice. Be direct, be honest, but be polite. Keep it brief. You don't owe anyone a long, complicated excuse that usually just digs a deeper hole.
Right. Avoid the elaborate story.
Yeah. Speak calmly, maybe a bit slower, use a warm tone, and take ownership. Saying, I don't want to, or I've decided not to, can feel more empowering than I can't, which can sound like you're blaming external factors.
Yeah.
And definitely resist the urge to over-apologize. A simple, I'm sorry I can't, is usually enough. You don't need to justify managing your own time.
And there are even different ways to say no, right? Like different styles.
Yeah, think of it like a toolkit. There's the straight-up simple no. There's the reflecting no. You heard them first, like, I understand you need help with X, but unfortunately I can't take that on right now.
Acknowledges the request.
Exactly. The reasoned no offers a brief, genuine reason. Sorry, I have to say no because I'm facing a critical deadline. The rain check no, but only use this if you really mean it. I can't make it today, but how about next Tuesday?
Gotcha. Don't use it to just put them off.
Right. Then there's the inquiring no, maybe suggesting an alternative. I can't manage that task, but perhaps Sarah could help, or maybe we could approach it differently. And for really persistent people, the broken record no. You just politely, firmly repeat your simple refusal. As I said, I'm unable to help with that right now.
Having those options makes it feel less confrontational, more like navigating, being clear but strategic.
Precisely. And getting good at that is just fundamental for protecting yourself from being constantly pulled in too many directions.
Okay, let's shift gears slightly. How do we integrate this into daily life? Moving beyond just saying no to actually managing time and rethinking that whole work-life thing, the research seems skeptical about perfect balance.
Yeah, that idea of perfect 50-50 work-life balance,
Yeah,
it often feels like chasing a myth, doesn't it?
totally. And trying to force it can just add more stress.
Exactly. So the material suggests thinking more in terms of work-life integration, accepting that life ebbs and flows, that shifting between roles is natural. The goal isn't this rigid separation, but finding a healthy, sustainable middle ground.
Integration, okay, that feels more achievable. How do you build that?
It really starts with getting crystal clear on what matters most to you. What are your core needs, your absolute non-negotiables? Maybe it's hitting that yoga class 3 times a week.
Or never missing your kid's soccer game.
Right. Or making sure you have 2 hours on Saturday morning just for yourself, reading or whatever. Identify those things. Schedule them first. Treat them like critical appointments. And then build your other boundaries around protecting them.
That fits perfectly with those 3 decision-making questions we found, right? Before saying yes, ask. 1, what am I saying no to by doing this?
Yeah. 2, does this actually move me closer to my important goals?
And 3, is the payoff really worth the input, the time, the energy, maybe even the money?
Those 3 questions are like a filter. Really powerful for cutting through the noise. Another big point, especially now with remote work blurring everything, is about being connected without being constantly available.
How do you manage that?
Maybe vary your response times. You don't have to reply instantly to every single ping. Manage expectations. Maybe create a simple system like an ideas for later note to capture work thoughts that pop up after hours without actually acting on them right then.
Oh, I like that. Capture it so you don't forget, but don't let it derail your evening.
Exactly. And speaking of evenings and weekends, guarding your downtime is non-negotiable. Schedule it. Seriously, put it in your calendar. Try digital detoxes, even short ones. Downtime isn't lazy. It's when your brain consolidates learning, processes things, gets creative ideas.
And nurtures relationships.
Absolutely. It's essential recovery time so you can actually be present and effective when you are working or engaged.
So beyond scheduling the big rocks and guarding downtime, what about day-to-day time management? Specific tactics to fight that overwhelmed feeling.
Okay, several classic but crucial tips came up. 1, use a calendar for everything. Work, personal appointments, even travel time. 2, get all your tasks written down in one place. Don't keep them swirling in your head. Then, prioritize ruthlessly.
What about the stuff that's not urgent or important?
Move it. Move non-essentials off your main to-do list. Put them on a someday maybe list or schedule them way out in the future. Plan ahead, work backwards from deadlines, break big things down, always build in buffer time because things always go sideways.
And keep reprioritizing as things change.
Constantly. What needs focus right now, and obviously actively using those no strategies we talked about, that is time management. Saying, let me check my calendar and get back to you, buys you time.
Don't be afraid to ask for help either, right? Or clarity. Or more time.
Yes. And for those tasks you just dread, the ones you procrastinate on, just schedule a tiny block to start, 10, 15 minutes. Often, just starting is the hardest part. But maybe the most crucial tip, prioritize self-care.
Sleep, food, exercise, breaks.
Yeah. These aren't optional extras. They're the foundation. Being exhausted makes every other time management trick basically useless. You need fuel in the tank.
So it's less about cramming more in, more about protecting your capacity to focus and work effectively. What mistakes do people make when they try this?
Well, a big one is not actually communicating the boundaries they set. People aren't mind readers. Another is getting too rigid, obsessing over perfect balance instead of flexible integration, not noticing their own bad habits like checking email constantly, and that all or nothing thinking, I set a boundary so I can never be flexible. Sometimes opportunities require a bit of flex.
Good points. Okay, one more big strategy, especially for people in teams, delegation.
Right. Delegation sometimes gets a bad rap, like you're just dumping work. But the research frames it as a vital tool, not just for managing your own workload and preventing burnout, but for boosting the whole team's productivity.
Why is it so crucial?
Because, fundamentally, a team can achieve more than one person trying to do it all. Good delegation stops you from being the bottleneck. It also helps your team members grow, learn new skills, take ownership, and it frees you up to focus on the strategic stuff that maybe only you can do.
Makes sense. What kind of work is best suited for delegation?
Think about recurring tasks that take up your time. Tasks that align well with someone else's interests or their development goals. Things connected to wider team goals where others already have some context.
Yet people often resist delegating, even when they're drowning. Why?
Oh, lots of reasons.
Oh,
Sometimes it feels faster to just do it yourself, especially short term. Maybe team priorities aren't clear. Sometimes you want to keep the interesting tasks. Guilt about adding to someone else's plate is common too. Or even, subconsciously, feeling less important if you're not doing everything.
so how do you get better at it?
Practice letting go. Maybe start small. But how to delegate effectively? Know your team's strengths. Give really clear context, the why, the goal, the deadline, the resources. Invest time in explaining or training if needed. Communication is key. Check in, be available for questions, give feedback, focus on the result you need, not necessarily dictating every single step. Trust them, but verify. Have some oversight, and always give credit where it's due.
And when should you definitely not delegate?
Tasks that absolutely require your specific expertise or authority. Handling highly sensitive information. Your core job responsibilities, usually. Things where failure would have a massive negative impact, unless you can really closely supervise. And frankly, if you don't have time to brief and support the person properly, don't delegate. It'll just cause more problems.
Okay, so we've covered a lot of ground stress, illusions, boundaries, time, delegation. Let's bring it back to a slightly bigger picture, protecting our peace. How does that relate to how we interact with the world?
Yeah, this was an interesting angle in the research. It nudges us to think about our own contribution. In our interactions, especially maybe online, are we adding to the peace and hope? Or are we adding to the noise and conflict?
That's a challenging question. Makes you pause before hitting send.
Exactly. Before engaging in that heated debate, maybe ask, what's my real goal here? Is this respectful? Does this actually need saying by me? Is it going to help or just stir things up?
So choosing to focus energy on more constructive things, positive contributions.
Yeah. Choosing civil discussion, contributing positively in your community, building things up instead of just tearing them down. These are conscious choices about where you invest your limited energy. And making those positive choices can actually be a deep source of personal peace and satisfaction, shielding you from that constant drain of negativity.
Wow. Okay, this has been quite a journey through it all. Understanding the real impact of chronic stress, seeing through that busy equals important illusion.
To the practical power of boundaries. Saying no, managing time smartly, using delegation, and even thinking about our positive impact.
It really underscores that peace isn't something that just happens to you, especially not today. It's something you actively have to create, build, and protect?
Absolutely. It requires intentional choices, consistent habits, ongoing effort.
So as we wrap up this deep dive, what does this all mean for you listening right now? Thinking about everything we've talked through, the hidden costs, the power of no, guarding your energy. Here's something to maybe reflect on this week.
What's just one specific boundary, maybe a small one that you can set for yourself, or maybe just one small no you can practice saying? Just one thing this week to start reclaiming a little bit of your time, your energy, or your peace.